So this week we are going to divide our information into two different parts. We're going to begin the information on the brain. And so we're going to go back. And this again is in your book. It's chapter 2 regarding biology and behavior. So when we talk about this, the first thing that I want you to know is, and that you'll be responsible for, you're only going to have 10 questions on this week's material. And this is about to start playing, so let me make sure that it stops doing that. The first thing that you're going to be responsible for, well, it did anyway, is a neuron. And a neuron is the basic building block of the nervous system. So you can't have anything, any neural reaction without this being present. So make sure that you know, just like the cell is the basic building block of your body, the neuron is the basic building block of your nervous system. So the next thing is a dendrite, and a dendrite is like a branch off of a flower. It's a bushy branching extension of a neuron, and it reaches out and grabs these neural impulses and pulls them in toward the cell body. So all of these things work together, but without a dendrite is your feeler. It reaches out, grabs your neural impulse, and pulls it in toward the cell body. So without this, this is very vital in neural communication. The next part is the axon, and the axons can be really short, or they can be as long as like 10 football fields, depending on where they're traveling to in your body. So axons are like an interstate of neural transmission. They're like the superhighway of neural transmission. This is where, once the dendrites have pulled these in, this is where the neural impulses travel in your body. So the superhighway of neural transmission is where the axon resides. The myelin sheath. Now this is like, to me it looks like a capsule, and you'll see an illustration in just a minute, but it encases the axons, and the more of this you have, the faster the neural impulse is going to travel. So the more of this you have, the faster it's going to travel. It's like insulation or fatty tissue padding of the axons. So you can see here, we've got your dendrites. These are these bushy branching extensions, and they pull the neural impulses into the cell body right here. And then they start traveling. And these are your axons. This is where they travel. The neural impulses travel on this. And see, these capsule-like material covers your axons and allows for faster transmission. So the more of that you have, the faster it's going to go. So the threshold is going to be the level of stimulation that is required to trigger a neural impulse. So without this, it's all or nothing. There are lots of things right now that are in your environment that you're not aware of. But once they reach a certain level, they reach that threshold, and you become aware of them. So it's the level of stimulation that's required to trigger that neural impulse. So the synaptic gap is the junction between, and I want you to learn it as a synaptic gap instead of the synapse. It's the same thing, just called something differently. It's a junction between the sending neuron and the receiving neuron. Now, the neurotransmitters travel in this junction, so they have to cross the synaptic gap in order to be effective. That results in a lot of people being depressed, because that neural impulse is not fast enough to be able to cross that synaptic gap, so it gets stuck, and so depression results. Neurotransmitters are simply chemical messengers that travel in your brain. We'll talk about chemical transmitters in your blood later on. But for this class purpose, you're going to learn that neurotransmitters are chemical messengers that travel in your brain. Okay? So there are different kinds of neurotransmitters, and we're going to learn a couple of them in this class. Acetylcholine, or it's abbreviated as ACH, it triggers muscle contraction, and it's found at the junction, every muscle junction in your body, like your elbow, your knee. It allows your elbow to bend, your knee to bend, you to run, you to walk. It's found at every muscle junction in your body. It's also found in Botox. It is also found in spider venom. So both of those things paralyze the muscle. So that's why Botox releases wrinkles, is because it paralyzes the muscle. Endorphins are like your natural morphine within. They're released in response to pain control and pleasure. If ever there's a movie a couple years ago about a guy that was hiking and he was forced to cut off his own arm or die. And so those morphins, your endorphins, are what kicked in and allowed him to be able to survive. So it's the runner's high that you hear people talking about. Some of you would say, if you ever see me running, you better run in that direction because something very bad has happened. Some of you may feel that way about running. I once did. Don't feel that way now because I enjoy it. But it is one of those things that is released in response to those particular things. Now let's... Okay, so we need to go back here. I'm looking for a chart here, which I don't think is here. So we need to just simply talk about a couple of things. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter that is released in response to movement, learning. If you don't have enough of dopamine, then it results in Parkinson's disease, which is what Muhammad Ali had, which is what Michael J. Fox had, and you're going to watch a video this week about Michael J. Fox. And too much results in schizophrenia, so make sure that you know that. Dopamine, very, very important. Serotonin is another one. Serotonin is one that is released in response to depression. If you don't have enough of that, that's what I was talking about earlier about your neurotransmitters. If you don't have enough of that, it's going to result in you being depressed. And antidepressants like Prozac work to raise those levels. So very, very important that you're familiar with those neurotransmitters. I don't know why they're not here in your notes, but I can add them on in a different place because it is important that you are aware of those. Okay, so dopamine, too little, Parkinson's disease, too much results in schizophrenia. Serotonin, too little, results in depression. So that's all that you have for this week. You also have a video, so make sure that you watch all of the videos before attempting to take your quiz. Questions, please let me know.